It's been a minute since I've been away. Didn't mean to cause you pain, I just needed to escape. Ain't saying that I'm sober, I'm just in a better place. I'm on my way over, I'm just running kinda late. And you know I've been through all the highs, I've seen all the lows. Lost track of time, but I'm coming home. You know my mind, places it goes. And it goes, and it goes. It's only a game, don't be afraid. These doors will close and people change. One day you're gone, right now you're here. Don't leave just yet, don't disappear.
The date is December 23rd, year of our Lord, 1972. We were at Three Rivers Stadium in downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Having taken a 1-point lead, the Oakland Raiders are defending on the opposing 39-yard line and hoping that 22 seconds won't be enough time for the home team Pittsburgh Steelers to score. It is a very reasonable hope to have. This divisional round has been an absolute defensive game, where points have come at a premium with a total score of 7-6 as of right now. So, it would be asking of a lot for the Pittsburgh Steelers to pull this off. But, as they break out of the huddle, they are far from ready for this historic season of their franchise to come to an end. And for what comes next will make us forget that there was even a football game, a season, a decade, and many other little things leading up to this moment. As quarterback Terry Bradshaw calls Hut, this play becomes a disaster from the beginning. It is clear, as you can see by rookie running back Franco Harris standing still, that he forgot to do his job and pick up the 2 blocks that were coming towards the quarterback. As the defense crashes in, offensive lineman Gary Mullen, who would later go on to become president and owner of Industrial Metals and Minerals of Bridgeville, seems to fall down in a last-second effort to keep the opposing player away from the quarterback, but that doesn't really go as planned. Luckily, Bradshaw is able to avoid the arm of former All-American Tony Klein, and then takes off into a scramble. Milliseconds later, and realizing that he is surrounded by nothing but white and gray, he knows that there is little to no more time to think. Bradshaw has to get rid of this ball, and in interviews, he has gone on to say that in the last possible moment, he saw a black streak running parallel to the line of scrimmage about 20 yards ahead, and flings the ball into the distance in a last-second prayer. This streak, to be exact, was actually the fullback, John Fuqua, better known by his nickname Frenchie Fuqua. Frenchie will go on to have a great career, but the only job that he has right now is to try and catch this ball, and in doing so, also somehow find a way to make it into the end zone. A task that is basically impossible given the circumstances. Just by looking at this play so far, if you were in need of late game heroics, this is not exactly what you would draw up. But before we see how this plays out, we need to rewind to see exactly how we got here. To make things simple, the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't good. For the 36 years of the Steelers' existence, it has been losing season after losing season. This mature franchise has yet to even make a playoff game, something that teams in their first year had been able to accomplish. This is a franchise that, although have been around almost as long as the originated teams, does not seem to have the history that the rest of them share. This is a black-coated city, basically in the middle of the woods, that is a very successful baseball franchise in the Pirates, and everyone could care less about the Steelers if they wanted to. However, it seems like everyone is content with them. Maybe not enough to keep them here for the years to come, but nonetheless, everyone seems to have tremendous respect for owner Art Rooney. It's like as if he was the owner of the Green Bay Packers, Kansas City Chiefs, or New York Jets, yet he was just the owner of an underperforming team somewhere in Western PA. Don't get me wrong though, the Rooney family was no joke. When the National Hockey League declared that there would be an expansion, Art Rooney single-handedly persuaded the league to have one of the expansion teams settle here in Pittsburgh. He thought Pittsburgh would be a great spot. With the new Civic Arena opening up right across the river, it could easily be converted into an ice hockey rink. The only downside is that they would probably have to close the open dome that they had for many plays and other events, which by the way, looked very cool. For the newly established Penguins though, they did not really have much going for them either, just as the Steelers didn't. Basically, the only big headline they were able to make as of now was how they had accidentally killed their mascot penguin from frostbite and pneumonia, because nobody on the staff knew that South African penguins did not cooperate well with the ice. And the craziest thing about this mascot, better known as Penguin Pete, was that he was then taxidermied and placed in the main office until one day being stolen. And to this day, there is still nobody that knows what had happened to him. But that's a story for another time. Now back to Mr. Rooney. Although highly respected to the city, it was making news that his money was running out, a majority of money that had come from horse betting, not from the team. And with the announcement that both Seattle and Tampa Bay were in the process of making stadiums to be home to NFL teams, and the city of Los Angeles also wanting a second team to accompany the Rams, the fate of keeping a team in Pittsburgh was not really set in stone. So after the 1968 season, which ended with a record of 2-11-1, featuring blowouts such as against the Baltimore Colts, where the final score was 41-7 in favor of the opposing team, and a 45-10 loss to the Los Angeles Rams just a week prior, owner Art Rooney decided to put the team in the hands of Chuck Noll. Or was it Chuck Knox? The big question on basically every Pittsburgher's mind was, who is this guy? And what is he going to do that hasn't been done for the last 36 years? Chuck Noll was strictly business from the moment he had walked into the locker room. He was even quoted as saying to the team, "You guys aren't good. I'm going to have to cut a lot of you." And coming just off a Super Bowl loss as a coordinator for the Baltimore Colts a year prior, it was obvious that he had a vengeance to get back to the big game and make it different this time around. Many can say this new goal began in the 1969 NFL Draft, when the Steelers used their first-round pick to select defensive tackle Charles Edward Green. Charles Green, better known today as Mean Joe Green, had gotten the nickname from his aunt as he resembled a boxer that she had known from television. And before all the stardom and the Coca-Cola commercials, Green had actually contemplated quitting the Steelers as he felt he just didn't fit there in Pittsburgh, before being persuaded by coaching personnel to stay. Which is actually very similar to that of what teammate Terry Bradshaw had also felt. Years prior, Bradshaw had actually flunked the NCAA exam for Louisiana State University, as he felt that was just too big of a place for a small-town Southern kid like himself. And now, here they all were, dedicated. After a staggering record of 11-3, being led by all sorts of players such as Rookie of the Year candidate out of Penn State, Franco Harris. And now, in front of over 51,000 people, half of which probably Franco's Italian army, the entire season had come down to just one last play. No one knows what is to come with this play, but nobody will forget this when it's over. Welcome to an immaculate moment in history.
Last chance for the Steelers. Bradshaw trying to get away, and his pass is broken up by Tatum. Tipped off. Franco Harris has it, and he's over. What? Franco Harris grabbed the ball on a deflection. 5 seconds to go. He grabbed it with 5 seconds to go and scored.
If you aren't from Pittsburgh, there's a good chance you probably don't understand the magnitude of this play. When I say that this play single-handedly saved the city, I truly mean it. This was the play that had begun one of the greatest dynasties in sports history and created the Steelers that we still know today. A Steelers videographer had even told the media weeks later of how he was supposed to go with Roberto Clemente to deliver emergency supplies to Puerto Rico. But since the Steelers had advanced to the next week of the playoffs, he had to stay back with the team. That flight to Puerto Rico would later crash only miles past the shore, killing Clemente at age 38. It was obstacles like that, and other things like the collapse of the steel industry, that had shown the people of Pittsburgh just how much this franchise really meant to them. It was beginning to become something that the people of Pittsburgh could witness together, cry together, and cheer for together, and it was something that this city had never felt before. But even to this day, there are still many people who make the claim that the ball actually hit Frenchie Fuqua, as opposed to the Raiders player, which would have, under Rule 7, Section 5, Article 2, Item 1, created a dead ball at the time once Franco Harris had caught it. So much research has gone into it, but nothing has been more conclusive to this day than the study done by Carnegie Mellon professor John Fetkovich, which features him throwing a football off of a brick wall to reenact if the ball were to hit Fuqua. The research concluded as impossible. Today, when you walk into the Pittsburgh airport, in the main terminal there are two statues. The one is of first President of the United States, George Washington. The other is of first-round draft pick, Franco Harris. If that doesn't show how important this play, which would later be donned the immaculate reception, was to the city, then probably nothing will. It is just the normal for the people of Pittsburgh to hold the man who defeated the Redcoats up to the same standards as the man who defeated the Raiders. It kept the city's hopes and dreams alive, hopes and dreams that have been shown to rub off onto those in the community. It was growing up in such a rich and historic football town that got future players such as Joe Montana, Jim Kelly, Tony Dorsett, Dan Marino, Ty Law, Darrelle Revis, and many others to where they are today. That is something many would call a palimpsest in of itself, and the Steelers just keep on winning. Over the years, this exact same team has even had crazy moments to compete with just how great the immaculate reception was. Plays such as Lynn Swann's diving catch, James Harrison's pick six, Santonio Holmes' toe tap, and dare I say it, Antonio Brown's immaculate extension. I've gotta say, it is moments like these that continue to keep a fan base, a tradition, and a legacy behind for the city of Pittsburgh. And to think that it all started with just one play. A play that has actually been named in the year 2020 by the NFL as the greatest play of all time. And just as Franco Harris has said himself, it was truly immaculate.